Do I hit the gavel? All right, as the secretary for the SVCA board, I call this meeting to order at 1:11. It's an SGM for the recall of 2 sitting board members. I have been, all right. Our president, AJ Tischler, could not make it, and he states the following: I will not be in attendance, and that I've coordinated with our board secretary, Brian Cope, to open the meeting, and that I designate John Berg, our parliamentarian, to run the meeting. Thank you. And I'm going to pass it off now to John Berg to run this SGM. I did. This board has a land acknowledgement and an anti-racism statement that you can find on the SVCA website. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if you can see me or this camera's not on. There. Okay. We do have a quorum present. Could we have the proof of notice of the meeting?
Yes, we have the proof of notice of the meeting is right here. Documents.
The purpose of the meeting is to address 2 items of business. The potential recall of 2 directors. We will address them one at a time. The first one is, shall SVCA Board Director Andrew A.J. Tischler be removed by a vote of the membership? That is the question. Is there any discussion? Anyone online wishing to speak? Anyone online wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature at the bottom of the Zoom screen. So I'm not. You say there are? Okay. So you're going to move them over as panelists? I'm sorry. Okay, so there are no hands up. Okay. So is there any further discussion on the first measure, the recall of Andrew Tischler? The question was, why are they being recalled? There were sufficient signatures on petitions to call a meeting for the recall. So if anyone has any reasons to vote to recall them, they can speak now. If anyone has reasons why you should vote to not recall them, you can speak now. Well, that's a question. So does anyone wish to respond? Most of the votes are already in. However, after that is an interesting procedure where you have the vote before the debate, which makes the debate kind of superfluous. I noticed the same problem with the bylaw amendments last year. Is there any further discussion on measure number 1? Measure number 2, shall SVCA Board Director Sonia Wold, AKA Sonia Volt, be removed by a vote of the membership? Is there any discussion? What is your question? Can the people online hear? Can you go to the microphone over there? Because the folks online can't hear you.
I wonder if we could bring him a mic. I wonder if that mic will stretch over to him, because he's got a cane. I try to stretch the mic to you if you want, if you don't want to come in. Yeah, you want me to
Yes.
stretch it over to you?
Yeah,
Let
we
me
can't,
get you
we
the
can't
mic.
hear
See
you.
if I can get it.
What I'm asking is, can you take the vote in this room? Who mailed out for us?
The votes that the ballots were mailed out, the ballots can be deposited at this meeting.
Can you?
Yes, and they will be as soon as the debate has finished. When the debate has finished. But anyone who wanted to deposit their ballots before the meeting had to do that by 12:30. Or have them mailed in or whatever. But you can vote at this meeting, is my understanding.
Hi, Michael Wadsworth, 5 Western Lane. I'm on the N&E committee and I didn't really hear the question.
The question was, can ballots be turned in at this meeting?
Okay, you were mailed a ballot. It had to be sent into Unilec in time so that it arrived and they had it before 4:30 Friday night. You also had the option of taking that ballot and dropping it in the ballot box and administration office anytime before 4:30 last Friday night. And this morning you had to show up downstairs between 9 and 12:30 to get a different ballot so that you could vote from the floor. So those were your 3 options. And if you didn't make it between 9 and 12:30 this morning to get the in-person live ballot, no, you cannot vote now. The ballot that you had mailed to you doesn't count if you didn't get it in the mail or in the ballot box before 4:30 on Friday. And that was spelled out in all the literature in the mailed in ballot, and it was on the Sudden Valley website. And that was the way the rules were laid out, and they were laid out very clear ahead of time. And that's how it was laid out. It's the same for the AGM the AGM. When we have it, you'll get ballots. You can mail them back, you can put it in the ballot box, or you can come in the morning of the election between 9 and 12:30, get a different ballot and set up here and then cast it live in the meeting when we call for floor ballots. Thank you.
Let me read the instructions that went out with the notice of the meeting. There were 4 methods of voting: by mail, drop off, in person, and proxy. The in-person reads, you may register before you vote in person. Registration is Saturday, August. We're getting some feedback there. Registration is Saturday, August 13, 2022, from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. in the community center. If you choose to vote in person, do not bring the enclosed mail-in ballot. You will be issued a new ballot at registration on which to cast your vote. You may cast your ballot during registration and deposit it in the ballot box at the community center, or you can wait and cast your registered ballot at the special general meeting. Therefore, my understanding is that you can cast your ballot at this meeting. If it is the ballot that you picked up at registration. But not the mail-in ballot. Is that clear? So if you picked up a ballot at registration, you would not use the mail-in ballot, you would use the ballot that you picked up at registration, and you can cast that ballot at this meeting.
Is that all clear then? Any other questions?
Yeah, I think that's clear.
Okay.
Any questions on that? The bylaws say that anyone up for recall is entitled to speak in their behalf. Do either of the two individuals subject to the recall wish to speak? Do either of the individuals up for recall wish to speak in their behalf? Okay. Is there any further discussion on the two measures? Okay, that concludes debate on the two measures. You may now cast any vote. Any ballot that was picked up at registration can now be cast. Are there any additional ballots to be cast at this time? Hearing none, the balloting is closed. And the ballots will be counted by the professional election service. At this point in the meeting, there will be comment from property owners. This will be limited to 3 minutes per person. And simply approach the mic on the left, on my left, your right. Introduce yourself for the record and then proceed.
My name is Elizabeth Huthert. I live at 8 Westbrook Court, which is over by Gate 13. I've lived here for 22 years. And like most of us, the last 2 years, I have been sort of excluded from board meetings, and all our organizations and clubs went down. So I have been pretty much out of it for 2 years. But I'm not so out of it that I don't realize Sudden Valley is in a mess right now. And it's going to take a lot of work. Now, part of that problem was natural disasters. Part of it was bad management, or maybe just stupid management. But I think the main problem with Sudden Valley right now is that all of us were home or masked or, hiding out. And so much of Sudden Valley always relied on volunteers helping and homeowners getting together and letting people know what the problem was, how to help that. So I think it's going to take us some hard work to get back to where we want to be, to where we have good amenities, our dues are not outlandish, and it's a place where our property values will hold up. It's going to take a little money, but it's also going to take all of us to get back into being involved with Sudden Valley, whether it's a club or volunteering or being on the board, whatever suits you. But let's just get out there and get to know each other. Now, one way you can do that is next Saturday, There's going to be an ice cream social at the library from, I think it's 1:30 to whenever. The ice cream is free and there will be sprinkles. Come out and meet your neighbors. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Kenneth Murray. My wife and I reside at 30 Creekside Lane. And I also have an additional property that I hope to build on soon. I'm glad that the person who spoke before me said that there are disasters in Sudden Valley, and we each have our own disasters, I'm sure. It's easier for me to just read the statement that I have put together today. I'm glad to have the opportunity to address our directives regarding serious issues that pertain to the condition of the Sudden Valley's portion of Beaver Creek. Over the years, there's been an accumulation of fallen trees across the creek, causing dams in a number of areas, which has resulted in extreme high levels of water flow. These high water levels have caused serious soil erosion and flooding of properties. Additionally, large trees close to the eroding shorelines are currently in danger of falling and possibly causing property damage and/or physical injury. If this were to happen, our HOA or the property owner could possibly be held financially responsible for damages. I strongly suggest that a first step would be the immediate removal of blockages within the creek and falling of dangerous trees. These issues have been brought by me and many of my neighbors to the staff of Sudden Valley. We've gotten a lot of head nods and nothing has been addressed to date. So I suggest that the directors take this issue seriously and respond back to our community. Thank you for your time.
Ann Cope, 52 Louise View Drive. I would like to say to Elizabeth, Brian and I attended the meet and greet at the library. And I think a good welcoming thing when you're welcoming neighbors is not to tell them that they can sue the association and brag that you've done so. Now, a question for Brian Cope, since there is a lot of back and forth and Sam Shahan was hounded online the other night. Did you receive an inspection report before the purchase of the 1850 property?
Sure did. Yeah, and 518. actually.
And did the rest of the board receive that email?
What's that?
Did the rest of the board receive it as well?
Yes.
So why, ask yourselves why one board director continues to lie? Thank you.
Section 518 is actually our son Brendan Ford.
There is a hand raised. Could you bring them into the meeting? Nancy Nguyen, is that correct? Is when I believe you're unmuted, you can. We're not hearing anything.
Me now. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Thank you. My name is Nancy Nguyen, and I live at 1 Grandview Lane. And I would like to thank Elizabeth Herther for standing up and speaking her thoughts, some of which I agree with. I do want to say in regards to her announcement about the ice cream social at the South Whatcom Library, that event is for any and all residents, no matter what the age. However, it is on Friday, August 19th, not Saturday. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name's Heather Browning, 19 Clear Lake Court. I'm going to respond to Ann Cope, and you can say whatever you want afterwards. I will not respond again. Folks at the library have every right to discuss suing the association if they want to. That is not out of the question. That is not out of the question. And the second aspect is if there was an inspection report done and an email sent, publish it. We'd love to see the inspection report. And then also, Brian, I actually call for your resignation. Your wife posts a lot of, Ann Cope, your wife posts a lot of things that were supposedly behind closed doors and in secret meeting. And the only way that information could have gotten to her, I'm going to guess, is through you or one of the other members. So I actually call for your resignation in that degree.
Respond to
You
that.
can respond anytime you want. I won't say anything else. Thank you.
Well, we have one other person still in line.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Why don't you go up to that microphone just so that you're equal with everybody else?
Just to respond to that, my name is Brian Cope. I live at 52 Louise View Drive, and my wife Ann is a historian, I would say, of this community. She's read every Views article that has ever been written. She's studied this place from 2000 onward. I have not shared anything that was in closed session with her, and if she knew 1/10 of the things that were going on, her head would explode. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michael Wadsworth, 5 Western Lane. I really appreciate what the lady here said about Sudden Valley. We do have our problems. There's things that need fixed. There's things we'd like to see changed. There's stuff that each of us don't think should have been done. There's stuff that each of us think should have been done. There's things that we feel we should know about. There's things that go on that are frankly we've given the board the authority to do some things. That's why we elected them. And we sometimes have to live with that. You don't have every senator and every congressman reporting to you every day. I'm sure they send out letters and info and stuff. I get some from different elected officials. It's not a perfect world. These are volunteers. These people give up their time to run and care for this community as best they can. They're not professionals. Hell, I've thought about running for the board, but I watch what happens and people get chewed up no matter which way they go here. I mean, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Why would somebody want to take that job? We need to stop the us and thems and start being we. We're a community. This is our home. This is where we live. I have opinions. I'm a very passionate person. I have made comments that later I retracted because my wife said I was a little harsh. I'm blunt. I'll call a spade and hell with it, you know, where it lands. But again, my wife reminds me that I represent her also. And so I have to correct some of my wording. And I have taken things off what I've posted on Facebook because it was a little blunt. And I've tried to reword it, but no matter what I do, I'm wrong. It's a tough community out here. I've lived in different neighborhoods and we had a neighborhood I lived in where there was drug dealing and stuff going on there. We started a block watch. We worked together as a neighborhood, drove this crap out of there, reclaimed our homes, and it's a better place to live now. And then we moved here. I have been so mad at my realtor for not telling me what he sold me into here since day one. All I've seen is fighting, bickering, arguing constantly. I've talked with people that have lived here since the 80s, and they said it goes on all the time. We need to stop it. We need to change this. We need to support the board or the developments and the stuff here. And if we want really to change that, maybe we put up the money to hire professional board people. People that have done this their entire lives, but you don't know what you're gonna get till you get it. And so, at any rate, and the other thing I want to say, and I'm out of time, but this has to be said, is we elected this board to represent all the homeowners and everything they did. We wanted communication, we wanted openness, and we wanted transparency, and damn it, we didn't get it. And I'm upset about it. That's what I'm upset about with this board. I know these people. I worked with them for the dues limit. I helped support them. I voted for them, and I didn't get what I was supposed to get, and I'm disappointed. And the board needs to step up, do what they were elected to do, report to us in timely manners, in newsletters, in communication, and something, so that we don't have to go through this anymore. And I'm hoping in November that we can elect people that'll hold that mark.
Sylvia Murray, 30 Creekside Lane. I wasn't going to say anything, but after this last speaker, I have to say, I agree with this idea of board members are volunteers. They give an incredible amount of time and energy. And the last board was completely ripped to shreds and was accused of all kinds of things, pocketing money and everything else. And no one said, you know what, they're volunteers. They're not professionals. Give them a break. Now it's this board and it's the same thing. People are unhappy with what's happened. Whether or not a board has been giving information or whether they've been making decisions that we individually agree with, it's still a difficult job. And to hear the bad mouthing and, you know, the accusations continue year after year after year. We've lived here since 1998, and the speaker is right. It's always something. You know, we all say how much we love being in this community, how we want a sense of community, but we're constantly saying really negative things. And even in the views, when things are written about whatever is going on here, and then they write in, and a board member did this, about how, you know, it's gate 1 and 2. They're the ones who are pushing all these things because they're wealthy and they want to keep all their amenities, and the rest of us poor folk have to pay for what they get. You know what? All these amenities benefit all of us. They keep all of our property values up. And it isn't just gate 1 and gate 2 that are concerned about things falling apart and crumbling. I mean, you know, I really agree. I think it's time we start cooperating with each other and seeing what things do we agree with, and understand no matter, it's like in politics, you can feel very strong about this or that, but you know what? It's time for healing, for cooperation. I don't want a community that's always divided. I don't want a country that's always divided. We have a lot of talk about now the new leaders are going to be there for everybody, and they never are. So it starts with us. And that's all I have to say.
You'll need to use the microphone because the folks online can't hear unless you're at the microphone.
My name is Gayla Suggs. I'm off of Gate 1, 21 Parr Lane. It was my understanding that the board is paid. Is that correct? They do have a salary. So there's no one on the board that's getting paid. The general manager, the president, no one? The general manager gets paid. So who else gets paid? No one else.
People at work.
So no one on the board gets paid.
Okay, from the comments in the audience, the board is not being paid, but the professional staff is general manager, office staff. I assume maintenance people, whatever. Are there any comments online? None. And you have one more comment? Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wasn't going to comment. This is Nathan, U12 Somerville Lane. I wasn't going to comment. I have received threats and whatnot. So this is for anybody who comes up here and stands here in front of their community. I applaud you for sure. I live in gate 13 and I am pro recall. And if you're not familiar with why we're recalling it, there's a couple reasons. Right off the top, there's way more than I'm willing to go into at this point, but Sunmark was purchased behind the back of the community 100%. They had a meeting. They decided they're going to buy it. They did a meeting online and we're buying. So we have Sunmark under us now. We don't have any more committees. Our finance committee all just resigned the other day because they asked questions about the budget that's being presented. So they quit. We don't have a finance committee. This board is going to decide the budget and they're going to pass it. We don't have any other committees really that have anybody on them right now. Our calendar used to be full of community events where we can all get together and be a community, and that's not happening anymore. There is so much that has been shut down by this particular board. If you just watch online, there was a member here who was berated, almost essentially accused of not necessarily being handicapped like he claimed. That's disgusting. If you watch these board meetings, if they're met with any opposition, the way that they lay into you, the community members, is disgusting. That's why I'm pro recall. I voted for a couple of these people when they first came on, and I sat back and I watched and I waited for good things to happen. It never happened. We were promised transparency. We were promised this and that. It never happened. So if you have any questions about the recall, you can go to, the websites that are out there that are on the signs that you'll see. Please do your research. I mean, the vote's already over. It is what it is, but I had to get up here and say that there are several reasons why I am pro recall. And I really hope that things change. I hate this. I hate being threatened online. I hate having to defend myself and go out there and be ugly online myself. I hate it. So thank you guys.
Scott Walsh, 51 Marigold Drive. And I'll fully admit, I've been one of those ugly people. I've responded to some people in an ugly manner. There's little choice on things when you see a well-rehearsed little tirade happen where you're talking about who's lying. I think all that could have been avoided if you had simply published stuff like we used to have in the agenda minutes, in the agenda. Why wasn't that inspection report included in the agenda is a question I've been wondering. Why wasn't any real dialogue had on the purchase of a 1.5 or whatever number you're going to throw out there for a building? Why do that without transparency with the entire community? I'm very disappointed in what I see in this community. It's the most beautiful place on earth. I travel all over the country and I come home and the toxicity of some people drive me crazy. Brian, you're a very nice guy. But now you're secretary. Why aren't the minutes posted? Why? What? All of that could be explained. Why did Rich leave and we only find out yesterday? Why do we hear? Is anybody been hired to replace? Anybody?
Been hired to replace Rich.
Rich, yeah,
I haven't been privy to any of that information.
really? You sure of that?
I-
Brian, that disappoints me. You're the secretary.
Excuse me.
You are the,
Can I respond?
you are,
You can respond.
one of the executive committees members, and you don't know. So anyway, these are the kinds of things, you know what, Brian, I really do want to hear from you, because I do think you're a nice guy.
Respond.
But anyway, I just want to say transparency, communications failed miserably so far in the last 2 years. Pike handcuffed. Where is he? Is he in the room? Oh, there you are. Your wrists. Yeah, it's a joke. It really is. And people are really starting to see a lot of it. And we'll be going back and forth, I'm sure. But, you know, what Wadsworth said a while ago was really heartening. I would really love to see that. And I would shut up if we could get the ball rolling again. Thank you.
I don't think so. Are we still? Oops.
Ah, sorry. My fault. Got it. John's good. He's good. We can agree on that. John's good. Okay. I just wanted to explain something that Mr. Walsh said. The reason I didn't know about the Rich thing or who's been hired is I just got back from the mountains last night. I was gone for 3 days and I just got back. So I haven't really been privy to any information. So whatever's happened since then, I'm not aware of it. So thank you.
Can I speak?
Yes.
So my name is Dan Pike. I'm the general manager, and I thought since my name was invoked and I was going to be fitted for handcuffs, I thought I'd respond a little bit. What's that? I'm in handcuffs? Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that either. So we have in fact made a job offer and it's been accepted for somebody who's replacing Rich. I'm not going to go into the details of why Rich left, except it was his choice. It had to do with some health issues he's dealing with. He gave us enough advance notice that we were able to proactively reach out and find a candidate that's a strong candidate, but not enough time where she could give notice where she's currently working and start seamlessly. So that's what's happening there. We do have a very strong candidate. I think people like her when they meet her, and I'd hope that you'd give her a chance. And the executive team was involved, I know through emails and the like. So I don't, I was confused when you said you didn't know what was going on either. And in addition, it's actually on the website. We put on the website yesterday that Rich had left. And then initially I didn't mention that we'd hired somebody else. And I thought it was probably good to put that in because I saw some questions going out like, what the hell are you doing? Letting somebody go without a plan. It's like, we had a plan. The plan is moving forward. And so
We can meet her, Rich.
so I also just want to say, regardless of where you stand on the recall or anything else, I appreciate this as a community. The reason I came back here to work is that I lived here in the early 2000s with my kids when they were young, and it was a wonderful place to be. And one of the things I would like to see is what a few of the folks here have spoken about, which is finding ways to move forward. And I think focusing on the things we agree on would be a great way to build some of those relationships. This is really how things happen. So, I think this is a wonderful place. I think it's full of wonderful people who sometimes have disagreements, just as I have in my own family. And I'd invite us all to think about ways we can be a little bit more civil with each other as we move forward. Thanks.
Do we have the balloting report yet? Will they bring it up?
You get to speak twice if nobody else is ready.
Is-
Again,
is there
Elizabeth
anyone else-
Huthard.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak who has not spoken? No. I'm not able to see the hand raised. Are there? I don't see anyone online with their hand raised, but that may be a limitation on my technology. So I'm asking our IT person in the back to double check. So if anyone online wishes to speak, put your request in the chat box. And I believe we'll be able to see that, will we not? Okay. Okay. You may go ahead and speak.
Okay, well, in the meantime, sometimes, well, a lot of times, the residents of Sudden Valley forget that this is a community and the association is not in charge of all of us. So if we want to have committees, there's no reason why we can't get together and form them ourselves. Now, we don't necessarily have the ability to shove it, something through. It would have to go through the voting process. But there's no reason why we can't have a group of people forming a communications committee, an emergency committee, which scares me to death because I'm not too sure we've got one right now. A rec committee, we don't have to run everything through the association board. We can do whatever we want to among ourselves. And we can advise or we can put a vote through, but we have the power to do what we want in this community, which is a beautiful community. And, there's a lot of things bad, but every morning I get up, I open the drapes and I live in a forest. And I've got deer in my garden and birds on my bird feeder. It's a beautiful place and there's wonderful people here. And all we need to do to make it a wonderful community is maybe if each one of us volunteered for 2 hours a month, this place would be fabulous. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Trang Gorlan, 6 Stowe Court. Wasn't going to speak because I'm not really a good speaker, but taking a little bit of offense because there is a communication committee and we 5 of us have worked really hard as the board. But in your point, I do believe that is correct, that we don't need a board created community if we wanted to get together and do a park and rec where people and volunteers work the park. I believe that has happened before my time, but I've heard of it. We also, I'm fairly new, I came in 2018, so I've seen a lot of turmoil in this community. And it's sad I brought my family here to raise them in this beautiful lake exposure community. And it's sad every single time that we see this turmoil within the community. I met a lot of people and those have been here years and they've told me stories of what it was like back then. And then I meet a lot of new people like myself who just brought our family here and don't know exactly what we were walking into. But what Michael has told me before, and he'll tell you again many times, because this community is based on volunteers from the board to the committee to everything else, you can gripe about it. You can complain about it. You can talk on Facebook and post all your, positive and negative part about it. But you need to take a stand. You need to get involved. I know it's get involved and do something about it. And that's where I did. I serve where I believe I can. I volunteer where I believe I make the best impact, which I hope is communication. And I know there are a lot of us out there that would think, well, if I don't do it, someone else will do it. Well, can't complain if someone else is doing it and you're not doing it the way you would like for it to be done. So this 2 more months in November, there's 5 openings, right? Michael, anyone? 5 openings for a board member. You feel passionate, if you have the energy, if you just love this community so much that you're willing to sacrifice and give yourself to it, 5 openings. I hope and I beg all of you, those who feel this way about this community and want to make a change, step up. Thank you.
Okay, can you unmute her? Just one.
Not a problem.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. My name is Chelsea Saunders. I live on 16 North Summit Drive in Gate 9. And I just want to say, I don't really even feel that I've got like a political stance. We moved here 5 years ago and everything has declined since this board took power. The turnover since this board has been in charge is something I've never seen here in Sudden Valley, or honestly in any organization that I've ever witnessed, the rate of turnover, the inability to fix the El Agave kitchen, the removal of the dock when it was not required. I can't even think of all the things. It's just like, look in any direction and things are worse than they were. And we're not talking about a board that just took power that hasn't had a chance. We're talking about a situation where this leadership, what we're looking at now is the product of this leadership. And the thing is, you can say it's really great and trying, I admire you and I admire everyone that commits time to volunteering to this community, because that's what keeps this community running. And I can't thank you enough, and staff as well. I mean, we really all depend on you. But at the same time, even as members calling in to community meetings, we get bullied by the current leadership who are subject to recall. And we see right now what's happening to the one board member who disagrees on this board. I mean, even here in this meeting, she was verbally abused. And it's a kind of environment where, no, you're not going to get people who are willing to step up under this leadership, because they know that they're going to be met with abuse and lies. And again, we all see that because we see what happens in public meetings. Who knows what it's like behind closed doors? I can't even fathom. It sounds awful. And that kind of thing is not okay. It's not a matter of me agreeing or disagreeing or their priorities are different than mine. I recognize that we are a democratic community. And so if my particular priorities aren't what this board prioritizes, that's just how it goes. They won the election. But it's just the toxic behavior, the inability to even achieve their own stated goals, and the fact that everything in our community has degraded since they've taken power. I just think that enough is enough. They've had enough time, and as it's been said, the votes are in. It's going to go how it goes. But I really hope that even if the recall fails, that the members that were subject to recall will take a look in the mirror, and instead of pointing fingers, consider why so many of the members of the community felt inclined to do this, because we need change. Whether it's going to be, I would much rather for the members of the board to currently just try to do better. I would love that. But anyway, that's all I have to say. And again, thank you to everyone who volunteers. It's an enormous task, and we all do depend on every single person. I just want to see better. Thank you.
See if I can roll in here without knocking the podium over. My name's Rob Gibbs. Excuse me, my name's Rob Gibbs. I live at 14 Far Summit Place with my wife. Wasn't going to speak, but I felt compelled to do so. Michael, I appreciate what your comments about. We got to find a way to come together. Like Scott mentioned, I'm one of those folks that have gotten pretty angry at times, and maybe posted some things that maybe I should have thought twice before I pushed send. But I get frustrated sometimes. I get frustrated with a lack of information. Often what I do is, when I don't have all the information, I try to put the pieces of the puzzle together myself. And maybe I'm wrong. Am I lying? I don't think so, but I could be wrong. I have loved this place since the first time we drove in from Alger. Cindy and I bought our home in 2017, and I've loved it here. I've been involved. And what is sad and frustrating to me is what I believe is that I could put my name in and fill out a form to volunteer for something. And with this current board, and Brian, please look at me when I'm saying this, please. I believe that you guys would reject my application. I applied for the Parks, Recs, and Trails Committee in December because I really wanted to stay involved. I believe diversity of ideas and people are important, but what I believe is that most of our committees are comprised of people that only agree with the majority of the board. Nobody ever said to me, "Hey, Rob, thanks for applying, but we're just not ready to do it yet," or "We don't see it happening this year." So I was left with my own devices of putting that puzzle back together. I felt like that would have been deserving. There was someone who applied for ACC that you said your constituents, which is me too, didn't agree with her. But she was more than qualified to be on ACC, and we only got like, what, 3 people on there? Just because, anyway, enough said. I'm hoping that we can go forward out of whatever comes out of this recall. And last time when you presented the recall, the last one, I stood right here at that time and said, I think this is a very serious matter. It should not be taken lightly. It's not about trying to be, it's about rationale. And I think a lot of that's been stated, but it's so hard. We are so divided, so angry. I'll leave you with this. It's so hard to put yourself out there. I've got people telling me I need to divulge my medical records to prove where I was when the doc was being put in. I had someone ask me, I'm just going to finish, sir. You've let other people go on too. I've had people ask me, did anybody contact me while I was in my hospital bed? The only people I was talking to was my physical therapist, because I was hoping to be able to walk again. So I have never wanted ADA to be the spotlight on me. I just want enough. It's been enough time. But let's try to be welcoming of all people on committees. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for looking at me.
I'm Nick Flacco from the Golden Sections, Gate 1. I apologize for the alarm, but I have to go feed my dog a pill. That's what that was all about. I'm also one of them rich people that members of the golf course. I'm retired. I have no income. Oh yeah, I do. I have Social Security and a small pension. All the amenities at this community are worth something to everybody. Not all amenities mean something to everyone. I happen to choose the golf course as my favorite amenity. Just want to tell you, we all contribute. The community contributes $50,000 to the golf course to keep it up. Please divide that by 3,000 people that are members. Comes to $16 a year. And I'll tell you this, whether you believe it or not, whether you want to believe it, the golf course is a great amenity and it does improve your property values. I don't care if you live on the 18th hole or up in gate 56 or something. But support. I don't use any other than, oh yeah, I do. The jogging trail and the little dog park. And I appreciate those. So just remember, for $16 a year, it's quite a contribution. I'm not going to talk about the board. That's water over the dam. That's old business, good or bad. Whoever's in there, just do your best.
Okay, can we take the hand on Zoom then? I guess there's two of them on Zoom. Okay. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make a brief comment that irregardless of what takes place on the recall, keep in mind that there are 5 open board positions that come up in November. And if you want change, then that obviously is a good time to do so. Thank you.
And Megan on Zoom. I believe you've spoken already, haven't you? The fellow, I'm addressing the fellow at the podium.
I believe I'm unmuted. Can I be heard? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to first, my name is Megan Thigeson and I live at 4 Plum Lane in Gate 3. I would like to thank all the volunteers and many people that make this a truly wonderful place to live in a community that I wouldn't want to leave. I think the nature of living in a community and in society in general is that we will have a diversity of opinion and that will lead to disagreements, and that's normal. One thing that I really value as important is the ability to have respectful dialogue. And I appreciate people who engage in that way in person, online, and in any other means. I've been concerned that some of the processes in place in our association that are designed to provide checks and balances have degraded. And it appears that some of those checks and balances are not there. Whether that's what's happening or whether that's the perception due to a lack of communication about those processes is to be debated, and I don't have the answer to that. But what I would like to see going on for the future is more evidence of collective decision-making processes. I think that that's something everybody could get behind. I also, I've lived here since 2008. I have young kids. We plan to be here as our forever home. And in that situation, I particularly want to see a focus on properly maintaining what we currently own and planning forward for that in the future. And it really concerned me, the process of purchasing the Sunmark property. That $1.5 million property was purchased with our dues, and our dues were designed to maintain what we currently have. And by purchasing that property, we are further indebting ourselves to maintain it. And then we have less available money to maintain other things that we're responsible for. So I would have much preferred seeing that come out to the community for feedback. And I could have maybe even gotten around the idea of that. And I would have been willing to, pay a couple more bucks a month or something to make sure that that would be something we can own and maintain and go forward with, but that everything else we already own can be maintained and gone forward with as well. I'm concerned about the budgeting process for next year in 2023 and the application of the 7% dues limitation that I voted to support. In the current draft of the budget, it appears that the dues limitation is being applied as a 7% to each of the monthly payments on the last 7 months of the year when the rec special assessment expires. But if you read the documents about the dues limitation, which again, I voted for it, it's in reference entirely to annual dues. Every single one of our bylaws are in reference to annual dues. If you look at the annual dues and you calculate 7% of the annual dues, we certainly wouldn't be going above that to maintain the exact same monthly payment we have this year. For next year, that way we aren't operating in any sort of a budgetary shortfall than we have this year. Being that we've added a new building and property, I think it only makes sense to not have $44,000 less in the budget than what we could have if we just all paid the same instead of having about a $3 a month reduction for the last 7 months.
Yeah, your
So I
time is
emailed.
up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll just end by saying, I hope everyone is able to continue having respectful dialogue. I appreciate people who are doing that. If that issue is looked into about the $44,000 and the application of the 7%, that could possibly recoup some maintenance FTE since we're losing that for next year. Thank you.
Do we have the election results available yet?
Yes,
Okay, you,
that's what I was gonna say. We have our results.
okay. Is there anyone who has not spoken who wishes to speak? Okay.
Steve Workman, 1 Sandalwood Circle. I'm on the NNE committee. One thing that I wanted to bring up, which I saw people talking about, and there were some ballots that actually indicated that they felt that recall should only be done if the people creating the recall pay for it. And that is a thing I want to get up and address, because that means that the only way you're going to be able to create a recall is if you actually have money ahead of time. And that's not something that really we should try and implement within our community. Is it's going to take away people's voices to try and actually make positive change. So I just want to come up and say that.
There was a question, who was the person who spoke before Megan? Did we have that person identified? It was an online. I
thought there was one in person.
think it was a gentleman.
Yeah. No, it's after Rob.
It was after Rob. Well,
Dave Scott was online too, though. There was one person here that was in person. Okay.
Dave Scott has his hand up. Does he want to speak again, or? Did D. Scott already speak? Okay. Is there any objection to allowing people to speak more than once? Okay. So is there a motion to limit the speakers to one speech person? It's moved and seconded that speakers be limited to one speech only. All in favor of limiting the speakers to one speech, raise your hand. This requires a 2/3 vote. Lower your hands. Those opposed to the limitation, raise your hands. Okay, there being 2/3 in the affirmative, the speeches are limited to one per person. Well, we can't do it retroactively now, can we? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak who has not spoken already? I see a Christina Dunn.
I'm sorry, that was my hand raised for the last vote.
Okay. Is there anyone who hasn't spoken who would like to speak? Or if someone wants to move to close the public comment? There's a motion to close public comment. Moved and seconded to close public comment. All in favor of closing public comment, raise your hand. Thank you. Those opposed? It requires a 2/3 vote. The motion is adopted and the public comment is closed. We will now proceed to the results of the election.
Okay. Actually, you might have more. Go through the slides here.
Oh, I see. The next slide. Right here.
It's small. Are we not in this is presentation mode? It's been a while since I've used PowerPoint.
Okay. Can you see, are they on the screen? Okay. First measure, shall SVCA Board Director Andrew A.J. Kistler be removed by a vote of the membership? There were 577 yes. 606 no. This requires a 2/3 vote. The measure has failed and Director Kistler has not been recalled. Measure number 2, shall SVCA Board Director Sonia Wold be removed by a vote of the membership? 588 yes, 595 no. A 2/3 vote is required. 2/3 was not obtained. The measure has failed and Sonia Bolt has not been recalled. There were 1,163 ballots received and 23 in-person ballots and 0 floor votes. Is there any further matters to come before the meeting? Since the business is limited to that stated in the call to the meeting, there is no further business. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Nice work.